Pudgy Penguins is regularly announcing new partnerships and new projects. For example, recently we've got the launch of the Vibe Series 3 trading cards on Target stores. Now, unfortunately, the price of Pengu doesn't really reflect any of that. And maybe that's because all of crypto is going down. That's at least the easy explanation. At the top, we've got the Pengu price. At the bottom, we've got the market cap of all these small altcoins. There's clearly some correlation, as in the two charts tend to move in the same direction at the same time. Now that's simply the impact of the general macro situation. But when we're buying and selling altcoins, we have to ask ourselves, what are the opportunity costs? Does it make sense to buy an altcoin over the others, relatively speaking? And so it does make sense to look at Pengu relative to the rest of the altcoin market. And here is potentially an opportunity. So this is the Pengu price divided by the others market cap being the altcoins that are not in the top 10. And over the last 7 to 8 months, we have been trading in a range, and we are at the lower end of that trading range with a potential outperformance of more than 60%. Hi, my name is Gerhard. I've been in the crypto space for the last 8 years. I hit my first million 3 years ago, and it is mainly through active trading of altcoins. My track record is on the website down below. While most people lost money, we are at an all-time high if you include the current open positions. And every single trade that I've done is publicly available to be seen on this website. This is all of the closed positions. This updates in real time. The positions that are currently running, they are available for the premium members of this channel. Now here's one of the major problems with Pengu. Unfortunately, the number of investors does not grow over time. And that's required for a meme coin to long-term appreciate. We need to see more people getting in. Pudgy Penguins is one of the very few meme coins that actually has an inflating token supply. Many meme coins just get launched on pump.fun, for example. They've got a fixed supply and that supply doesn't change. That's different for Pengu. 1 year from now, we will have 16% more supply circulating. And if the demand doesn't grow at the same rate, then the price has to underperform relative to the rest. And so those are always the two major factors, right? We've got the macro, of course, when Bitcoin doubles and Pudgy Penguins will go up as well, but it's always about relative performance. How much better can it potentially perform? And that's determined based on demand and supply, as in the supply grows by 16% per annum. Will the demand now grow more or less than 16% per annum from here? And given that this chart has not gone up for the last year, things don't necessarily look that rosy. Now on X, we mainly just see memes getting posted left and right, but this doesn't really help us to find a market edge. This channel is very much data driven, and I also publish on X regularly over here. So if you're on X, formerly known as Twitter, then feel free to follow the account of this channel. It's @BitcoinStrat. So make sure that you follow the right account and not a scammer or an impersonator. @BitcoinStrat is the only official Twitter account. Now there's not just the Pengu token, there's also NFTs. And the growth engine is the partnerships. The growth engine potentially could also be Wall Street going forward. That's what many people are hoping for. An approval of an ETF that holds both the token but also NFTs. Here's Pengu relative to Solana, because Pudgy Penguins launched on the Solana chain and still the majority of liquidity is on the Solana chain. If we work with the assumption that Pudgy Penguins just trades around an equilibrium, and sometimes it's cheap and sometimes it's expensive, and the average price that marks that equilibrium, so that's the dotted line over here, then Pengu is slightly undervalued and could potentially go up by 24% versus Solana. And since Solana is recently breaking out and is outperforming the rest of the market, this here is Solana dominance. How important is Solana within all of crypto? Since Solana itself is already going up and Pengu might outperform Solana, the resulting US dollar gains would then of course compound. Now, especially meme coins are very much driven by how much attention there currently is on the asset. What we see over here, that's the price in blue and the spot trading volume as this bar chart in brown in the background. We can clearly see when there's more trading, when there's more attention, then the price goes up. And when attention goes away, potentially to a different token, the price tends to decline. So this is a misconception. Most people think that we should be buying a token when many people are bearish on the token, when everybody says the token will go down. But actually, we should be buying a token when nobody discusses it, not when the sentiment is negative, simply when there's apathy. That's our buy signal. Because have a look at this. This is a sentiment. This measures now on Lunar Crush if a post is bullish or bearish, and then it calculates the ratio. How many people that talk about Pengu actually think it will go up? And we can see that that sentiment, this bar chart, has not a lot of correlation with the price chart. So just because many people here are bearish does not mean that this is the best buying opportunity. And just because a lot of people have been bullish does not necessarily mean that we have to sell. There's way more correlation between just the number of creators talking about Pudgy Penguin versus the price. And this is where we get the potential opportunity. Just have a look at how many creators have recently talked about Pengu, yet the price has not yet moved. Now there's the spot trading volume on the one hand, right? This is buying and selling the token directly, but there's also the levered bets on the price. And that tends to have more trading volume because here the transaction fees are lower. But again, we can see how the trading, this time on the perpetual futures, is very much correlated with the price as well. When there's less trading, the price tends to go down. Now this has several reasons. Of course, when there's less attention on an asset, people tend to rather sell and then move to the next hot topic. But there's also the idea of market makers potentially selling. Because some market makers that are completely neutral, they don't want to have any exposure, they just want to collect the trading fees. And so they buy assets that currently get traded a lot in order to gain those fees. Once the trading volume goes down, then the market makers aren't interested in holding the asset either. And that's then when those market makers offload over time. And this happens with a delay, because those market makers first have to measure how trading volume really goes down. And then subsequently, they move their capital into the assets that generate more fees and thus more return. The average market participant on the perpetual futures is neither bullish nor bearish. The funding rate fluctuates quite clean around the zero line. That's both when Pengu appreciates and also when it depreciates. What does have a very strong correlation with the price though is the open interest. And open interest measures how much bets are currently made on the asset. And since there are arbitrage bots between the perpetual futures market and the spot market, if a lot of people buy an asset on the perpetual futures, the arbitrage bots will also buy this on the spot market. Thus, a lot of open interest means a lot of short-term leverage in the asset. People that only have a short-term interest in an asset, they just use the perpetual futures because getting in and out is very cheap. Holding an asset long-term can become expensive because of the funding fees. In other words, if a price goes up because there's spot buying, that rally tends to be more sustainable. If the price goes up because there's perpetual futures buying, that's just short-term leverage entering. And at some point, those perp traders, they just exit again. And that's why it's dangerous to buy an asset when it has very high open interest. This is not the case for Pengu though. Pengu has very low open interest, and that's a bullish sign. If leverage was to go up again, this would definitely push up the Pengu price as well. Now, I like to do back tests, so simulations of buying and selling, determining trading rules that work the best for figuring out how to bet on an asset. And over here, we've got the best slow moving average versus fast moving average crosses. This is a heat map, and here is the best result, which is the crossing of the 8-day and 11-day simple moving average. Following that trading strategy would have given us more than 500% per annum, even without any leverage. Buying and holding, Pengu, of course, lost money over the years. So annualized 25%. This then means with the current situation that right now, Pengu is still, unfortunately, bearish. The shorter term moving average, the 8-day SMA, is still below the 11-day SMA. When we get a golden cross, then it can make sense to enter again. But as long as the momentum is negative, it probably makes sense to wait with buying Pengu, even when we are low on that trading range relative to the rest of the altcoin market. But Pengu could still fall by 5 or 6% from here. The nice thing about this strategy is that the performance was also very consistent, right? Just have a look at this strategy equity curve over time measured in US dollars. I like to trade based on those backtests. If you wanted to, you could even use a little bit of leverage. So here's the best leverage historically for going long, that's in blue, and going short, that's in orange. Most people use too much leverage trading actively. For long, the best leverage is 2.25x. For short, it's 2.5x. Once we go too high in leverage, we risk to even get knocked out. But even if we don't get knocked out, we still get less long-term performance. And why is that? It's because once we have too much leverage, it's very hard to recover from losses. Let's say you've got a 5x leverage and then Pengu goes down, say by 10%. Let's say you're long. Then you lost 50% of your capital. And then coming back from that, right? Going from those $50, let's say, back to 100, you have to double your money again. So having too much leverage is a problem because even though the upside is nice, the downside can crush us, even if we don't get knocked out. Most people use too much leverage. Don't be like most people. Leverage is like fire. If you use the right amount, you can enhance your returns. But if you use too much, your house burns down. And with data points like this, I rather tend to go on the more cautious side. As in, even for short, I'd rather go with 2 or 2.5x instead of 2.5. Because if we just go a bit over the optimum, the cliff is very, very steep. So rather a bit too little than too much leverage. We have time to compound our money. We are in no rush. And again, right now, Pengu, unfortunately, is still in a bearish trend versus Solana. And so that's my approach that I use for most trades as well. That's why the return graph looks the way it does. I've also filtered now my personal trades by the word Pengu. This is how I traded Pengu. So a winner of 9% over here, another winner of 31, then a few losses. Interestingly enough, there's also a wormhole short in here. That's because I announced my Pengu stop out at the same time. But then recently another winner again. And so again, not every single trade here is a moneymaker, but what matters is the very long term. And most people aren't willing to be that honest about the reality of trading. Most people say that they can give you the next 10x and you should bet the farm and you will get rich quick. Now the market has matured. It's not that easy anymore. Now I cannot share all the positions that are currently open. That's for the premium members, but I have set up something new. And that's this page over here. This page is linked down below and it will send one of the premium trades to you via email. It's a position that I currently have open, that the premium members have open, that I believe has a good chance to continue to make money. There will also be a premium tutorial video explaining how to set up that trade. All of this will be sent to you. It's completely free. There's no payment. There's no credit card. Everything will be sent to your email. Link is down below. If it's your first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish videos regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you next time. Cheers.